What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Swish Goswami of JoinSurf.com. And Swish, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out some other episodes people should check out of the podcast. Since we're going to talk about surf and the journey and also even to the thoughts of selling, John Warlow, I had on the podcast, who wrote the book Built to Sell. He's got a popular podcast, Built to Sell. Check that episode out. It's really good. There's a couple episodes actually on his podcast where I interview him on the previous 4 episodes of he kind of dissects after they sell and how it goes up to the negotiation, everything like that. So really interesting. Also, based on what Surf does, really cool company, which we're going to talk about. It made me think of Josh Linkner, who I had on the podcast, who started ePrize. And Josh ended up selling the company, and he started Detroit Venture Partners, partner with people like Magic Johnson, other notable people in Detroit to build up Detroit. And so Josh Linkner and ePrize was an interesting story as well. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. For me, and Swish has a podcast, which we'll talk a little bit about, a little bit different one, Formula One. But for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire on this planet and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com to learn more. And I'm excited to introduce Swish Goswami, he's co-founder of Surf. They raised over $9 million. They also acquired 2 companies along the way. Surf is a white label loyalty and rewards platform that helps enterprises capture consumer data ethically, reward consumers sustainably, and monetize their audience. And Surf has worked with brands like Amazon Prime Gaming, Hewlett Packard, Netflix, Sony Music, L'Oreal, Electronic Arts, SimilarWeb, and many, many more. And they basically help these companies understand their audience and, of course, Swish, boost revenue, right? Which people want. He's also, I mentioned, the co-host of Track Limits podcast, which is one of the leading Formula One podcasts, and chairman of the League of Innovators, which is a charity dedicated to accelerating youth entrepreneurship in Canada. Swish, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jeremy. Thanks again for that incredible bio as well. And definitely going to check out some of the other entrepreneurs you mentioned. They feel like there might be some cool synergy there.
Talk about Surf first, and what you do there.
Yeah, I'm CEO here at Surf. I've started the company with my co-founder Onik about 5 years ago now. So I was 21 when I started. I'm now 26. I feel like I've aged double as quickly in the last 5 years, just based on having to lead the company through the pandemic. And then obviously now this market downturn. I think it's been really cool for me to be able to see my role evolve. I went initially from wearing multiple hats to then having to really focus on fundraising, marketing, and obviously, providing my input on product development, to now where, we're a team of over 20 people. And we're a team that, has really, really built a solid ground when it comes to zero-party data, specifically on the product development side, with a number of different solutions, from a browser extension, an analytics dashboard, a giveaways platform, etc. My main job right now, though, is to help out the company on the fundraising and M&A side. I know we'll talk a little bit about M&A soon, as well as continuing to keep our investors happy, continuing to meet with our board frequently, and obviously align the executive team towards the main goals that we have each year.
I want to talk for a second, Swish, and then if people are listening to the audio, there's a video component. You can see we're on joinsurf.com, and you can see your all-in-one data and rewards platform. I want you to talk a little about the evolution of the product itself. What was it when it first started, and then we can kind of talk about where it is now.
Yeah, I love this question, especially because it shows a very clear lesson of how your first idea or your first conception of an idea might not be the best fit. And we definitely learned that quickly. So 5 years ago when we started, we were actually called TrueFan. We weren't even called Surf. We started the company TRUFAN. We wanted to build a platform that helped brands and influencers find who their top fans on social media were. So we built this algorithm that could take in Instagram and Twitter data and show anybody their influential and engaged followers and allow you to segment that by gender, by location, by age, etc. We ran into issues though with that business, and I think you can kind of see why, because as privacy concerns became bigger and bigger in the world, as social media companies were feeling the heat, they decided to change their public API. So Instagram, for example, took out their graph API altogether, which meant we weren't able to get data anymore from Instagram. Twitter made their premium API 10, 15 times more expensive than what it was 2, 3 years ago. And so that became really hard for us to be able to justify paying so much for Twitter data and looking at our gross margins at the end of the month and thinking, what the hell? So we started to move away from that business model. And I think that was really around 2020, where we looked at the market landscape overall and felt, okay, what we built is something really cool when it comes to data filtering, segmentation, and analysis, but the source of this data needs to change. We need to go after data sources that we can control, that we're not reliant on a third-party platform for. And that's where we thought of this idea of what if we look at zero-party data, the idea of people voluntarily sharing their data for something back. And we built out a giveaways platform. We built out a browser extension that gives people the chance to win rewards that also give guaranteed prizes as well. And that's how we were able to start building out our own data set that we could then provide companies access to.
So, I know you have a bunch of case studies here, which I'm going to show, but talk about how it works. Because before, obviously, if you don't own the data, you can get shut down overnight, right? Which, even people now who are marketing agencies or advertisers, they're having to shift and pivot based on the same exact thing, right? So it still happens over and over in different degrees and different realms. But now it's the company's data. So you have access, it's smart, you have control, or they have control. So talk about how it works. I don't know which would be the best example. You can see here, here's Prime Gaming, here's G Fuel, MLS. Which one would be the best one to talk about first?
Yeah, I think Amazon Prime Gaming for sure. And, it speaks really to kind of our bread and butter, which is our giveaways platform. It's definitely the most popular platform that we built. It's the most popular solution that customers come to us for. The giveaways platform that we built, again, pretty simple. It allows companies to come in. They can create a bunch of rules in terms of what people need to do to enter the giveaway. They can then publish that giveaway, give people a chance to win a prize, while also then allowing them to collect data or getting them to do specific actions. There's a few nuances, though, about our platform that is important to note. Number one, the giveaways platform we built can auto-generate sweepstakes rules in over 85 regions around the world. So if you're a big company, you don't need to engage your legal team to do all the indemnities and to create the sweepstakes rules all from scratch. That's something that can be auto-generated through our system, again, in over 85 regions around the world, including the most popular regions that people typically choose to run a giveaway in. The second thing is there's over 40 integrations in our giveaways platform. So if you're a brand like Amazon Prime Gaming, you can get people to provide their email, provide their phone number, but you can also go ahead and say, well, check out this video for additional entries, or buy something from our merchandise shop for additional entries. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok. There's so many ways to be able to not only collect data, but get audiences that you're bringing over to the giveaways platform to go and engage with your company in other ways as well. So Amazon Prime Gaming is a great example because we worked with them. We did a campaign for their League of Legends sponsorship in October of last year. We were able to generate over 3 million data points for them at a cost per click and cost per action of less than 2 cents. So this was like the most successful campaign they had all year. That's why they immediately signed up to be an annual customer now, thankfully. So they're not paying month to month anymore. They prepay for a number of giveaways every year. And we're really excited to be their exclusive data partner when it comes to generating compliant data for them through giveaways.
So a lot of times, Swish, for like this, for instance, they promote it to their current user base, but there's do they also promote it and advertise it on external sources too? Or is it mostly they're just using this for their current user base?
Great question. There's kind of two aspects to it. Number one, yeah, for sure, companies typically go and they market it to their own consumer base. And that's not typically only done through social media like Twitter and Instagram or through email. It could also be done at physical events. So one of the ways that Amazon Prime Gaming promoted the giveaway was at the League of Legends World Tournament that happened in Tokyo, in Japan. They actually promoted it pretty heavily across the event, not only through billboards, but also through digital programming that was being done before games, after a game, during the game. It'll be in the bottom right so people can go and check out the giveaway. The second thing is there are some companies though that come to us and not only do they want to promote the giveaway themselves, but they'll pay an additional fee to have us promote the giveaway to our own audience. Because when people come and they sign up for the giveaway, they actually have an option that allows them to create a Surf account in case they want to be notified of future giveaways that we're doing. And a ton of people now, over 250,000 people, have signed up and wanted to, be notified about future giveaways that we're running. So this is an audience that's very engaged, and we can let them know every month through a newsletter that we have about giveaways that are really hot and popular that they should check out.
So where can people find that? Because I'm looking on, I don't know if they go to Join Surf or is it a separate website?
Yeah, if you go to joinsurf.com now, you should be able to go through our entire enterprise platform. If you click giveaways in the nav bar, you'll be directed to our giveaways platform, or you
Right
can go
here?
to giveaway.joinsurf.com. Yep.
Custom giveaways here. Okay. So if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
interested in getting giveaways, they can go and subscribe on this, or do they go somewhere else?
Yeah, if they're interested, they can actually reach out directly through the contact request form, and our team will directly get back to them and schedule a call. We don't typically have an automated process right away. We do typically like to do a first call. Once we get to know kind of what you're looking to give away, what you're looking to drive traffic to, we can then give you the setup in order to be able to get you set up on the giveaways platform and then go from there.
I mean, from someone who wants to be informed about the giveaways themselves.
Yeah, on the consumer side, if you go to giveaways.joinsurf.com, you should be able to see all the giveaways that
Got
we
it.
have active. So yeah, you can definitely browse all our giveaways on giveaways.joinsurf.com.
Yeah, because I imagine that's popular for companies who say, listen, you already have, here it is here. You can go here and enter, and there's a bunch of the giveaways that you are promoting on your site.
Yep.
Talk about some of the giveaways. What if
Yeah.
people, what did they give away that's been popular? I know I've seen a video of
So
you. I think you were giving away Tesla at some point, but
yeah. Yeah, we gave away a Tesla actually when we launched our extension. So the extension is kind of a second way that people can go about sharing data. If they didn't want to do it through a giveaways platform, but they wanted to do it through the extension and share their browsing data passively, they can do that. So to kind of promote the extension, we decided to give away a Tesla Model 3. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the main prizes that people typically give away, they range from digital prizes. So we do allow people to give away digital tokens, give away NFTs. If they want to give away gift cards, they can do that as well. We also have a ton of brands that come on typically that are very focused on a gaming audience. And we definitely have a lot of gamers within our community. So monitors, headsets, controllers tend to be pretty popular there as well.
what are maybe some of the do's and don'ts? Because I'm sure that people are asking you,
Yeah.
what should we do? I'm not sure. What are some of the do's and don'ts there for giveaways?
Yeah, three things. I think number one, try to make your cover photo as high fidelity and high quality as possible. Don't put a lot of text on it. Try to make it very visual heavy. So actually like showing the items that you're giving away right away. So it piques people's interest. You'll be surprised like how many, graphics we tend to get from companies. And we're like, we can put it up if you want, but like this wouldn't look good. The fonts are way too big, or like, there's way too much writing. There's not that many visual graphics. So it doesn't look appealing. That would be number one. Number two, in every giveaway, when you click in, like for example, I think if you clicked into the Omen Gaming giveaway that we have running up right now, I think it's featured right now in our carousel. You'll
Right
see
here.
that there's a number of mandatory giveaway actions. Yeah, at the very top. So if you go to the very top there and you just click enter now, the Omen Gaming, they're running a giveaway. If you go down, you can kind of see some of the mandatory actions. And this is smart. A lot of people tend to just do like 7, 8 different actions right away. What Omen Gaming has done is that they've put in 3 different actions that you have to take. Once you take those actions, though, these are all mandatory actions. Once you take these actions, you then unlock 3 more. So they've actually hidden 3 more actions. If you click at the very bottom where it says redeem 3 methods above to unlock 3 more, you'll actually see these 3 more entry methods that allow you to earn even more lottery tickets to obviously improve your likelihood of winning the giveaway overall. So that would be number 2, is try as much as possible not to overwhelm your audience by putting like 7 or 8 different rules right away. You can definitely put like 2 or 3 primary rules and then hide everything else afterwards.
Yeah.
And the final thing,
and those things real quick, Swish,
Yep.
I mean, those things are
Yep.
pretty easy to do. I mean, you can follow this on X, you can follow on it. I mean, you could do all these at a click of a button. So it's not difficult.
No, not at all. Not at all. And then the final thing that I would note is try to give your giveaway time. So don't try to run a giveaway where you're like, yeah, the giveaway is going to be, the prize will be announced in 1 week. I typically like, minimum 2 weeks is always great. If not, try to push for like 3 to 4 weeks to have your giveaway live. Because the cool part about having a giveaway is it can honestly act as like the epicenter now for all of your other marketing initiatives. If you're, doing a paid ads campaign,
they'll like run it for like a week or something. And
they'll run it for a week. They won't get that much. And honestly, they don't give it enough time to really live in our community. That's like 1 email, for example, from us to our community if you only do it for 1 week, versus if you do it for 3 weeks, that's potentially 3-4 emails there already.
What about from a prize perspective? Have you seen mistakes people making with the prize itself?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some people that have come on and they've just simply thought that, oh yeah, clearly if I give away a higher value, like more dollar amount equals more data. And that doesn't necessarily mean much. Like we've had companies that have given away a PS5 or an Xbox and have gotten significantly less data points than a company that gave away a $100 monitor. So for us, I think like try as much as possible to keep the prizes simple. Especially when it comes to shipping. Like the company, for example, that gave away a PS5 was not able to ship out that PS5 for about 3 months, which really jaded their community that they got, because a bunch of people were really excited about the giveaway. And even the person who won only got their reward 3 months later. Versus if you give away something like a monitor that sure is lower in terms of monetary value, but it's still pretty awesome, and you can ship that out within 2-3 days after the giveaway ends. Well, now you're starting to build a pretty exciting momentum that you can then take to your next giveaway, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that. So obviously focusing on the photo, focusing on the action steps that people have to take, the engagement, and then the time frame. And then what are some of the craziest things you've seen people give away? Maybe if it wasn't you, but you saw another company do it. It seemed interesting.
Yeah, I would say the electronic arts activation that we did last year was pretty cool. They gave away $150,000 in EA credits. So like basically a bunch of like EA play points that you could use in FIFA, or you could use in NHL, or you could use also in Madden. The way they did it though is that they did it at their EA Play event. So every year EA Play happens. Typically it happens in person, but obviously during the pandemic as well as last year, they did it virtually. So they did it virtually over a stream. People can tune in to hear about the latest EA products, what are new games that EA is working on. It's kind of like their 1 hour, let me tell you everything that we did this year and what's coming up the following year. And throughout the stream, in order to keep people engaged, they gave away these secret codes. So almost like every 5-7 minutes, whether it's like the host is drinking a glass of water and at the bottom is a letter, they were able to go about giving away these secret codes that people at the end of the stream were able to then put into our giveaway platform to redeem an instant win prize and potentially win the biggest prize in terms of $150,000 worth of EA credits. That was pretty cool in terms of like how they ran the campaign, doing it through secret codes and doing that on a live stream.
And they can manage all of this with Surf.
They can do all of that with Surf. Yeah, we'll obviously program what the secret codes need to be. We'll give them the letters. They can obviously figure out how to, put the letters in their stream. We wouldn't go that far. But once they do that, I mean, people can go and immediately use the platform and enter the codes in whenever they get all of them to redeem their prize.
So let's talk about pricing for a second. In the beginning, when you had the influencers, How are you thinking
Yeah.
about pricing? And then we could talk about now, because you mentioned, well,
Mm.
people could sign up for a month if they like it, maybe get discounts over a year. Talk about the pricing aspect.
Yeah, I mean, initially we were kind of trying to go after influencers, small businesses, and enterprises, and it kind of made a mess in terms of how we thought about pricing because we were sometimes giving the same package to an enterprise that we would give to an influencer, but they were paying vastly different amounts per month. I think now we're really clear about the fact that we are very focused just on enterprise. We'll work with an influencer from time to time if we feel like it might bring more popularity to the platform. But overall, the companies that we work with are going to be the HP, the EA, the Amazon Prime Gamings of the world. The way we price is actually on two things. Number one, how many logins are we giving? So how many people on your team want access to the giveaways platform, not only for creating the giveaway, but also looking at the report that you get after in terms of all the entry methods, all the data collected, everything can be visualized after in our dashboard. And then secondly, how much are you looking to give away? So if you're giving away a prize that's $500 versus $500,000, we're going to charge you differently because the sweepstakes rules become a little bit more complicated once you surpass $10,000 in prize fulfillment. So if we're going above $10,000 in prize fulfillment, you're probably going to be looking at a premium price. One small add-on that again we recently added in was if you want us to promote the giveaway to our community, there's a flat premium add-on fee that you can add on to your checkout. And that's something we'll obviously know about and actively look to work with your team to promote your giveaway to our community as well.
What you mentioned a couple things, I imagine they're usually because there are challenges. And what are
Mm-hmm.
the companies that are coming to you? What are the challenges? You mentioned obviously auto-generating sweepstakes. There's a challenge with the legal aspect, and so your obviously platform solves for those challenges. What are some of the other
Yep.
challenges that the companies brought up that you then addressed and added into the platform?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things, honestly, with attribution, like a lot of people can run giveaways on their own, right? Like you could go and run a giveaway, and as long as you put the right captions, which you can probably find from other companies that do giveaways, you could run your own giveaway on Instagram and Twitter and tell people to follow you. But the only thing is, like, you can only do that on one platform. So if I, for example, was to run a giveaway and told people, hey guys, in order to enter the giveaway, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on TikTok. If I posted that on Instagram, I have no way of confirming whether or not a user on Instagram that followed me recently also followed me on Twitter and TikTok. And it's not only because they might not have the same username, which is already an issue, but it's also a lot of time and work that you otherwise don't want to spend tracking people in terms of whether they actually did the rules or not. So the fact that you have a system like Surf, where not only, again, like you said, it auto generates sweepstakes rules, it has over 40 integrations, but it also verified that each action was being taken and each action can happen across different platforms at the same time. That's pretty cool. And I don't think you can typically do that on your own.
Talk about building the team. From when you
Yeah,
first
it's always.
started until now, what did the growth of the team look like?
I mean, we started as a pretty straightforward team when it comes to like the overall components. It was me, my co-founder. We were pretty heavy on the engineering side early on. We brought on a CFO though before we even raised any money, and that's because our CFO was an angel investor that believed a lot in the business, wanted to come on and have some more skin in the game. But yeah, typically you don't want to hire a CFO unless you're, close to raising your Series A or already done your Series A. But it actually helped, if anything. My co-founder and I didn't have to do taxes on our own, didn't have to do any sort of tax rebates like Shred. We didn't have to do any of the forecasting or modeling or budgeting on our own as well. We had someone that we could lean on for that. But we started to hire more recently on the marketing side and on the sales side as well. Because again, if you take a look at our overall team size, even now, about 70% of our team is in product development or engineering. So whether that's a product owner, a front-end engineer, a back-end engineer, a UX designer, that's where we're really strong. We typically never had a focus around hiring people on the sales side or on the marketing side. But now, we have two salespeople. We have a lead gen agency called Send to Win that we work with. We have three people on the marketing side, and those people on the marketing side are incredible at what they do. They work with a nimble budget, but they do a great job of working within the confines of a nimble budget to be able to generate leads for the sales team to tackle down.
From early on, were you always going to raise money as opposed to bootstrap? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were. And this might also just be like immaturity, in the sense of like I was 21, I didn't necessarily know how to build a business, so it seemed like the easy way out, to say like, give me a bit more time to be able to figure this out. I also keep in mind dropped out of school, obviously wanted to earn a full-time salary, so I wasn't dependent on my parents who definitely wanted me to go back to school. So for me, I think going down the path of raising money was natural versus obviously, if I had to go back now and do it all over again with what I know now, I definitely would have delayed that process of raising money or potentially not even done it. Because obviously, I think, if you build a solid business that has, the roots around bringing in more money than you're spending each month, that is really lean, which we are now, but definitely, that whole mentality of being lean wasn't something programmed to me early on. I think if I know, everything that I know now, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I genuinely think we could be an incredibly profitable business, when we started right away versus obviously having to figure it out for the last 4 or 5 years through venture funding.
But it sounded like early on, I mean, you needed a bunch of product, team to build out the product and you needed revenue. What were you looking to raise early
Yeah.
on from angel investors?
Yeah, it was you nailed it, right? It was very much around product development. Though I would say if we had picked the right first product to start off with, and obviously again we made the
That's
mistake
hard
of
to
going
do.
down the social media
Yeah.
data. Like this is more just retrospect, like shoulda, woulda, coulda. But if we had picked the right product, if we had picked the giveaways platform back in 2018, I don't think we would have had to raise money. Like if we had built it out even in like 10% of the form it is now, I think it was a good enough idea, especially back in 2018, where giveaways weren't even as popular as they are now. I think it would have definitely been a solid product to start off with, a product that definitely could generate revenue from day one. But like you said, that wasn't the case. We started with a social media analytics platform. We obviously had to pivot from there. And I think that pivot also costed a lot of money, right? Because you went from spending a lot of money building this product to then looking at the overall landscape and feeling, okay, well, actually the opportunity is here, and now having to go back to investors and pitch them on, well, these are the products that we can now build within the space. We need the money to do so and do it very fast.
So what worked and didn't work with raising money? I mean, at the time, you're 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was 21, I couldn't imagine actually going to someone and say, "Hey, I want $500,000 from you."
Mm-hmm.
What worked and didn't work at that time, and was age a factor? Were people looking at you and was it hard to raise money because of how old you were?
No, age definitely wasn't a factor for me. I would also preface this by saying, like, when we raised money, we actually felt like it was relatively easy to do early on. In
Hmm.
2018, when I raised my pre-seed round, it was because I went to a bunch of people that I already had a relationship with. And the way that I built this relationship with them is by interviewing a bunch of successful high net worth people in my first and second year of university. So I interviewed them, wrote an article about them on LinkedIn, or recorded a podcast back in the day. I did a podcast around technology called The Tech House. And I was very engaged as a student to like keep in touch with these people. And a lot of these people liked the fact that I was following up with them. I was trying to help them. I was trying to connect them to people. So when it came to raising money, I went to all these high net worth people. And instead of asking them for $100,000 check, I went to them saying, can you give me a $10,000 check, a $25,000 check? We brought on 22 angel investors in our pre-seed round and we raised 750,000. And so that's how we did it. We went to people, we didn't ask for a lot of money in terms of like for them, it wasn't a lot of money. And we were able to raise, the 750,000 that we needed to be able to get the product off the ground, hire, a pretty small but focused team, and then obviously go from there.
At what
But
point?
if you,
Yeah,
by the
go ahead.
way, you go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, if you ask me like fundraising over the last year, like we did our Series A and we closed it about 4 or 5 months ago. We launched that round though in March of 2022. That round took me a year and 3 months. And that like it took a significant toll on me, took a significant toll on my mental health. I think I spoke to at least over 700 investors around the world, got rejected obviously by most of them. That was much tougher than our pre-seed that we did in 2018 or even our seed round that we did in 2019.
That's what I was going to ask. At what point did you decide and why to raise more money?
Yeah, I mean, typically you do it for a number of reasons, right? Either you do it because, like I mentioned in 2020, we had this idea, well, this is the opportunity, let's go after it quickly. We need to build XYZ products. We need to ramp up, these particular areas of the business. We need money in order to do that. And that became like an incredible need that we wanted to go and solve for. Another reason, candidly, is runway. You don't want to lay people off. You don't want to reduce people's salaries. You don't want to, diminish your team morale, especially in today's climate where company budgets have been slashed across the board. Companies have been bleeding. Big tech companies have been making layoffs. It's a tough market out there. So you do have a lot of companies now that go and raise money either because they are in need of raising money or else they're going to go out of business, or they're raising money in order to be able to have a war chest where they can then deploy even more money in a climate where most of their competitors are either following through or are really, really, really lean. So there's obviously kind of one or two ways that you can think about why companies go out and raise money.
And you made 2 acquisitions along the way. Talk about the mentality of growth through acquisition and the acquisitions.
Yeah, I think for us, we got 2 really good deals, which is why we did it. I don't think our plan when we started was to, acquire companies and then roll them up. That wasn't the plan whatsoever. But when we were looking at, 2018 comes around, we raised this round, we built a social media analytics product in 2019. 2019, the later part, we realized, oh crap, we need to pivot. We looked around and we thought, okay, well, let's try to build ideally, a business that is focused on zero-party data. And one of the companies that came across our table was Player.gg out of Kelowna, British Columbia, that had a giveaways platform in its incredible infancy, but still a giveaways platform nonetheless. So when we looked at that and when we started chatting with the founders and when we realized that we could actually buy this company purely for equity and with no cash, we thought that it was a deal we absolutely had to do. And that's why we decided to do that transaction. Why we decided a year later as well to do another transaction. That was a small cash deal, but it was a cash deal that we actually raised a bit of venture debt money for. And we felt pretty good about it because we knew our revenue was coming in each month at a certain amount. We knew we were growing by a certain percentage each month as well. We felt pretty confident about being able to pay off that debt loan that we took out within a year, which we did. So that was another transaction that we did. But again, the reason we acquired businesses was more to accelerate our product roadmap than anything else. We weren't acquiring typically for talent or customers. We were acquiring more for product.
So for the equity one, was that partial or it wasn't as much for the team that it was for the product?
Yeah, it was pure equity across the board. We did candidly bring on a few team members from Player.gg, including their CTO, Andrew. We didn't bring on their full team though. But yeah, in terms obviously of having to pay them a salary, that's fine because we were already looking for those types of roles and looking to fill those types of roles. But in terms of the business, the brand, the product, it was a pure equity deal that we were very satisfied with and very happy with.
And then, now going into, you shared that you are in the process now of selling the company.
Yeah.
And talk about who's an ideal buyer, why sell, and we could talk about that journey.
Yeah, for sure. I think the decision to sell really came about late last year. Our goal again was to try to build a company that specialized in zero-party data collection, zero-party data segmentation. We did that, but we started to feel like there was a ceiling in terms of how far we could go with an idea like this. We looked around, we saw a lot of competitors starting to pop up. We looked around, obviously, and saw a market climate that wasn't very ideal for consumer tech companies, especially when it came to raising money and looking to spend, money to acquire users. There aren't a lot of VCs right now that are looking at that business model and saying, that's the business model I want to fund. And then I think finally, like I mentioned, the last fundraising round that we did, a year and 3 months it took to be able to close that out. And again, it took a significant toll on me. So from a energy perspective, overall excitement of the idea perspective, I didn't necessarily feel as excited about what we were building anymore. And I think there were other areas, other ideas that I was more interested in that I would love to pursue or explore that kind of came into my mind as well, along with my co-founder. So I think both of us came together and we felt like, look, we're obviously going to continue to try to grow this company because even if we're going down the M&A path, it's always good to be able to show that you are growing each month, that you are, profitable, if not near profitability. So I think that was our main focus, was let's continue to do what we're doing, which is build out the product, continue to hire people wherever necessary, and obviously continue to grow sales each month. But let's start looking at who potential buyers could be. And we did a lot of reach out late last year, reached out to companies in the first party data space, in the loyalty space. We reached out to a lot of companies that collected data through surveys because we felt like they didn't have a passive way of generating data or an interactive way beyond surveys to generate data like we have with giveaways. And then we also reached out to a lot of buy now, pay later companies like, the Klarnas and the Affirms of the world that obviously are very interested in uniquely positioning themselves in a customer's shopping journey. And we felt like with our extension technology, we had a very cool way of integrating their product with some of the stuff we had built around gauging people's consumer purchasing intent. When were they going to buy? What were they going to buy? How do we track that data? How do we optimize for that data? That's the type of stuff that we can definitely do for a buy now, pay later company as well. So those are kind of the three buckets that we reached out to. Again, running a full process right now, 15 companies in the process so far. Obviously hoping to grow that number by the end of this month, but trying to push for letter of intent to be submitted by the middle of next month, and obviously hoping to close a transaction by the middle of 2024.
What are some of the other attributes that you are looking at that is a good fit for a buyer?
For an acquirer, I mean, two things. I think one is there has to be a complementary fit from the product side. Like, we don't want to just simply sell the company and then have the product be like priority number 5 or priority number 6. I think the companies that we got very excited about were the ones that were like, well, we currently do this really well, but we're missing X, Y, Z on our product roadmap. And we feel like you guys can definitely fill that. Or we feel like the union between our existing product and your product could be incredible. And there've actually been a few conversations where we've talked about stuff like that. That's even gotten me very excited. So if I even need to stay on for another year or two to look over that project, look over that integration, continue to sell that integration, in certain cases, I actually might be very interested to do that. The second thing is from a culture perspective, we are looking to not only sell the business and our customers and our brand and our product, but we are looking for certain team members to be carried over as well. And a lot of those team members, again, are on our customer success as well as our product team. Those are the two departments that we've been critically pushing, because the customer success team has relationships with every customer. Every customer tends to love their manager, like their CSM. And we want to make sure that that's being carried over. We also want to make sure, obviously, from a product side, the engineers that built these products from the ground up, that have continued to work on these products, that have continued to think of the roadmap, can continue to do that at a bigger company as well. So those are really some of the key things that we're considering.
As you go through this process, what have you learned as far as the valuation perspective of the market?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is twofold. I mean, obviously tech companies typically were given valuations of, let's even say 5 to 8x revenue. In today's climate, that's obviously fallen down quite a bit, both on the VC side and on the M&A side. Even, traditional tech companies, enterprise SaaS, you're going to be valuing a company more around 3 to 5x revenue. So that's number one. Number two, profitability. Like every conversation we've had has typically gravitated towards, okay, like, are you guys profitable? Okay, how much are you guys in the green? All right, what would it take in order to be able to get you guys more in the green? And especially when you're looking at the dynamics of the transaction, like, okay, if we're going to bring people over, what is the total cost of that? And like talking to companies, some of the companies we're talking to aren't profitable. So they need to think about that as well in terms of, okay, if we were taking on more people, if we were taking on server costs associated to bringing on a new product altogether, is that even something that we can afford on our balance sheet? So that's been another big thing for us to have to grapple with is that kind of clear focus on profitability as a core prerequisite, honestly, for companies that are engaging in M&A.
Did that surprise you at all? It surprises me a little bit, actually, because I feel like with SaaS companies, they're looking at revenue, but I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me because, again, the market climate, like, I understand why. Obviously, like, everyone's so terrified of interest rates being so high. And obviously, a lot of companies are having a really tough time fundraising or having a very tough time even getting good, profitable loans. So I know that a lot of companies right now are more frugal than ever. And in a frugal market, in a very lean market, you're obviously going to look for the best deal possible. If anything, I'm not as surprised as I am just pretty happy. Like, I think this is the way business should be done. And I'm hoping that even after this experience, let's even say markets go back to normal, things continue to thrive and flourish again. I'm hoping that a lot of founders don't forget this time, because this sort of time where every penny counts, every dollar out counts, it's an important thing for a founder to be considerate of.
Swish, who are some of your trusted mentors and some advice they've given you? Obviously, you've done a lot and
Mhm.
you're still young. So I look forward to see what you do in the future. But who are some of the mentors along the way for you?
I've had a few. They've been very successful entrepreneurs like Michael Hyatt, who built and sold Blue Cat Networks, Brian Holmes from Hootsuite, Manny Pata from New Avenue Capital, Michelle Romanoff from Clearco. They've also been artists that I've looked up to, and creatives, candidly. Some of them even who are like my age or even younger. One of my friends, Buster Share, for example, runs Hoops Nation, really good agency, focuses on social media growth, specifically in the sports market. Um, I will learn from anyone. I try to stay in touch with my mentors as much as I can. I try again to treat mentors more as friends. So it isn't transactional. It's more of like I reach out because I actually enjoy hanging out with them. I enjoy playing tennis with them. I enjoy getting on a call with them. And if I need help ever, I typically ask for it up front over text message or over email even. I don't wait for an in-person meeting in order to be able to ask for help. And it's the same thing back. I've been fortunate enough to also help my mentors in terms of connecting them to people or giving them a shout out if they need anything, stuff like that. So that's the way I treat it. But again, I'm very excited that as I'm starting to get more and more into new things as well, like even podcasting, like obviously I did one back in the day, but it was very raw, very scrappy. With track limits, the production quality has been the highest that I've seen a podcast in our space be. And we've been doing it at a very high level in terms of like flying to where our guests are located. We've stayed away from even doing any virtual episodes. I think we've had a lot of cool mentors that have popped up in the podcasting space now, in the motorsport space now, that I've enjoyed learning from. So that's the cool part about mentors, is that, there's mentors almost for every aspect of your life, even personal, relationships and how to deal with your network and how to deal with your mental health. You might have mentors that are exclusively focused on just that.
Obviously with Surf, you've had tremendous success and you have a lot of pretty amazing clients. I know you've had multiple businesses that you've started throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about,
Mm-hmm.
um, a learning or whatever you want to call it? Some people don't like to call it a failure point, but like a big challenge when a company didn't work out like
Yeah.
Surf did.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had a number of like smaller yet failed businesses probably in the past. Food Share was an idea that my best friend in college and I wanted to start it. After first year, we wanted to create an app that would give people donated and leftover food. And it was an app that connected students primarily on college campuses to that food. We didn't realize there's a Food Donation Act of 1994 in Canada that prohibits donated food from being monetized. That's probably something we should have researched or had a lawyer run through before we built out an MVP of the product. I had a social media agency in high school. We worked with like a few cab companies in Calgary, including Delta Cabs. And that, again, obviously was something that I didn't really carry on working on in university. I wasn't as engaged on it in university as I was in high school. But I've enjoyed, like even the failures that I've had, whether it's not going through a proper legal process to create a company and look at the market landscape, or not actually being passionate about an idea before I started and then realizing that only halfway through. I've learned from those mistakes, I think, with Surf. And especially with Surf, like the fact that we've gone through and raised money and acquired businesses and hired people and fired people and had to lead the company through the pandemic and as well as through this market recession. Like, I genuinely feel like I've gotten like a mini MBA almost in the last 5 years of building this business, which
Not just a
definitely
mini
I know will
MBA,
help me. Yeah,
beyond a mini
what
MBA, I
like
think. Yeah.
some level of like a Harvard
Yeah.
level course, if not even higher. But it's hopefully going to help me going forward if I start a business down the road.
And then Dunk. Talk about Dunk for a second.
Yeah, so Dunk was a business that I didn't actually start. I joined it as a co-founder, but the account itself was created by Elliot. He was a friend of mine. I lived with him in New York for about a year. He had started the account back in 2014 at Dunk on Instagram, and he had grown that to about 500, 600,000 followers when I met him. I came on board as his co-founder for especially the first 6-7 months, helped him grow quite a bit. We grew the overall network to 21 accounts on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, 11 million followers overall. The main account at Dunk, I left Dunk with about 2.3 million followers on the main page on Instagram. And we also were able to work with brands like Warner Music, Gatorade, Curve Fragrances, Q4, etc. So I do credit, by the way, a lot of what I know about social media, influencer marketing to Elliot. He's an absolute genius when it comes to social media. And I hope that he credits a little bit about the business savvy, fundraising, partnerships, speaking to customers, managing customers to me, because that was definitely my forte before I met him.
So first of all, I have one last question, but I just wanted to thank you. Thanks for sharing your journey with us and stories and lessons, really valuable. And I want to encourage people to check out joinsurf.com, which you saw on here. My last question, Swish, is just about some of your favorite resources. You know, it could be books, it could be apps or software. What are some of your favorite resources that you would recommend people?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge reader, honestly. I think the last book that I actually read cover to cover was 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, which I definitely encourage people to read if you're looking to especially start a venture-backed business. It's a great book. It looks essentially at like a bunch of general advice that entrepreneurs typically get, and it debunks most of them in terms of like talking about them and saying, yeah, probably don't do this or don't think about it this way. For example, like one of the concepts it deals with is the first mover advantage that everyone thinks is so important. But Peter Thiel in the book makes a big case for why being the last mover is actually the best, and talks about a number of examples across the world where that is actually being really beneficial. I think the How I Built This podcast is great. From time to time, I definitely check that podcast out. All In with Chamath. I love that podcast as well. And that's pretty much it. Honestly, otherwise, it's more like keep a pulse with my customer success team, speak to customers wherever I can. Obviously, continue to do founder dinners, founder retreats, talk to other founders, hear what they're listening to, what they're going through, what they're interested in. That's been the main form of education for me in terms of keeping a pulse on the market.
Love it. Everyone check out joinsurf.com and more episodes of the podcast. And Swish, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
No worries. Thank you, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.